So I'm going to spend the last 15 minutes or so just talking to you about our latest project, which we've called Film in the Wider World. Actually, if anyone can think of a better title, please let us know, because we'd like something that's a bit more zippy, but this is the best we've come up with so far. So we started this journey last summer, and we're about midway through. We wanted to share some early insights from our work, and this is also a project that's still in progress. So, as you can gather from what Ian has told you, we know a lot about film and film audiences. We are the Research and Statistics Unit of the BFI, after all. And last year, 176 million admissions, as you saw, the second highest since 1970. But we also know that around 4 in 10 of the population never go to the cinema. We wanted to know more. Is it about the difficulty of getting there? Is it about the choice on offer? They don't want to watch those franchises. Is it about the price of the cinema ticket? I can guarantee you that is probably not the reason. We also know a lot about We also know a lot about film on television. So around 2.3 billion views last year means that film reach goes up to about 9 in 10 of the population when we also count in the television screen. But we know very little about this screen, the mobile. We know very little about how that is contributing to our viewing of film and our film viewing experiences. Are we using mobiles just to watch trailers or to book tickets? Or are, as I see on my train in the morning, people watching long-form content on their mobiles quite happily now the screens are a little bit bigger? So this has all come, as Ian showed you, from the choice of films. And this has exploded across all platforms. So at the cinema last year, there were 3,118 different films shown. 718 of those were new releases, which means there's an awful lot there that were films that were re-released or shown again in cinemas, perhaps for around Christmas when everybody likes to watch a Christmas movie. That generated 1.254 billion box office revenues. By far the biggest earner of revenue for the film industry is still at the box office. If we look at television, we see there were 6,747 films broadcast on British television last year, and that accounted for 100,767 separate transmissions. That's 275 a day. Now, a lot of those are, of course, made up by the Sky Cinema channels, which show films 24 hours, and they have a lot of channels. But that's 11 films being shown on television every hour. And then we look at the streaming platforms. Across around the 8 major streaming platforms available to us in the UK, there were 33,337 film titles available. There's so much choice. How do people navigate the plethora and what some might call the tyranny of choice of what films to watch? So to understand the future and how film viewing is changing, we wanted to understand more about the connectivity between these platforms. You saw from the last slide, at the moment, we look at it very much in separate silos, separate buckets. We look at the film at the cinema quite separately from films on television. But we don't know, do people who go to the cinema also watch films on television? I can say certainly for myself, sample of one, I know, but I'm probably going to be in the category that actually my film viewing is almost entirely driven by the cinema. I very rarely watch a film on television, and sometimes or perhaps watch a film on a DVD, but that is rare nowadays. So we wanted to know, how does film viewing connect together across all these different platforms and devices? And as well as those, we wanted to know how film viewing sets in the context of other visual entertainment. So we've seen other things coming along the line, the advent of VR, AR. YouTube is a phenomenal repository of video that all is competing for our attention. And how does film viewing fit with a multitude of other things that are available. Well, Ofcom have actually been doing some work and have produced these very interesting modelled elements of total broadcast viewing. So you can see here that on average, we're watching about 5 hours of content a day. This is broadcast content. I don't think it definitely doesn't include the cinema, and I'm not sure. I know there's someone from Ofcom in the room, so I'll have to check with him later, but not sure whether it includes all film across all platforms as well. But certainly for broadcast content, you can see there that primarily we're still watching live TV, even though the doomsayers would say that we're not. But the total is quite a lot of hours. How does that vary? We can see amongst the younger generation that slightly less in total, but a very different pattern of viewing. We don't know how film looks in this respect, so our ambition from this project is to look at this time spent viewing film and to relate that to other forms of visual entertainment, and also to look at it by different segments of the audience. So we think this is a unique study. It's a single source study of film viewing. We're going to look at every individual's separate connection with film across all platforms. The big jigsaw piece really that we're lacking is to understand, firstly, why do audiences watch films? So Esther will tell you a little bit about our qualitative research in a minute, where we really deep dived into the need states of people. Why do we watch films? What is it about film storytelling that engages us and wants us to watch them? Secondly, as we've seen, what's the pattern of total film consumption? How do we spend our days? How do we spend our weeks watching film? How much time do we spend? And how much time do we spend out of home versus in home, on a mobile or watching a big screen at the cinema? Thirdly, what are the drivers of choice? What platforms and devices do people have access to? Are people who are passionate about film really having all access to films wherever possible? Are they subscribing to Sky Cinema at the same time as going to watch films at the cinema and films on streaming platforms such as Netflix? And lastly, how do film audiences segment? So we're really interested to look at, if I am a passionate film buff who loves to watch horror movies, am I watching horror movies across every platform? Or, as we will see from our qualitative research, are there occasions where who you're with determines more the sort of film that you're going to view? So we believe that all of this is going to contribute to giving us a really more granular and detailed picture, and will tell us more about how to more effectively exhibit, distribute and produce films. So the project is in multi-stages. It seems that everything we do here in the BFI is multi-stage at the moment. The first stage is complete. We've done our qualitative research. We looked at a behavioural economic framework to look at the decision-making process for why people choose to watch films. And we had a qualitative mobile diary that you'll see some excerpts from in a moment. We're now moving into a quantitative phase, which will be both a survey, which is a NatRep survey with UK respondents to quantify those attitudes, drivers of choice and behaviours that we identified in the qualitative research. From that, Jens will be telling you about how we're going to produce a segmentation. And alongside that also, there will be a viewing diary where people actually keep a record of the films that they watch, what devices they use and what platforms they watch them on, so that we can build that picture of total film viewing.